What's up guys, Editor Drew here, and this is actually the second time that I have recorded this video. The first time I really wasn't 100% happy with how the sound came out, so I re-recorded it, and it sort of dawned on me during the editing part of the process that the Nitro is a little bit darker sounding than I think it should be, and that I remember it being in the past. And so I started kind of brainstorming, thinking like, it might be the tubes. So I swapped out all four of the preamp tubes with 4 of the 12AX7s from the Mark 7, which I know are practically brand new, and it didn't make that much of a difference in the top end kind of sparkle and kind of the top end presence. It was still relatively dark sounding, and so then I swapped out the 4 tubes from the JCM800 and got a weird humming sound, and so I pulled them back out, and this afternoon I found a set of JJ's they're Groove Tube EL34Cs, and I think that they are basically brand new. I don't know how I came into those tubes, but anyways, I have 4 of those, and I put those in there, biased them up to right around 35 milliamps, and it's like all bright, and it's not a harshness. It cuts much harder in the top end, and it's also much louder. And I will play an A/B comparison of the old tubes versus the new tubes. The old tubes being the JJ's EL34Bs, I believe. But anyways, I looked up. I still have my email with Laura from Valve Queen from September of 2010. These tubes are old and they are tired, and I'm assuming that that's what the problem was. So anyways, I really have a lot on my plate in terms of products to review, so I'm not going to redo this video, but I do want to let you hear A and B comparison of the old tubes that I used in the video and these new set of Groove tubes, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but for now they'll do. I kind of want to grab another set of JJ's KT77s. I think those are just by far the best EL34 based tubes. And so yeah, I'm going to play this old tubes versus new tubes, and I actually want to show you. So here are the 2 waveforms in Reaper. This was the first one, and this is the second one, and I had to pull it down by over 4 dBs to get the volume essentially equal for the fresher tubes compared to the old ones. So I really just wanted to throw that disclaimer out there. I knew that something wasn't 100% the way it used to be, because I actually went back and watched some of my older Nitro videos and realized there's a lot more top end and a lot more cut in those older videos compared to what I'm hearing now. So there was a little bit of experimentation going on there, and I'm glad I kind of stumbled upon what the ultimate culprit was for that darker sound. So I just wanted to put this out there so that you guys could have this information, because when you watch the video, the Nitro is going to sound quite a bit darker than the 800, but it's still going to have all of that really solid low-end grunt that the Nitro has that the 800 just does not have at all. So yeah, thanks for checking out this video, and here's the sound clip from the 2, and then I'll go straight into the video. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a very cool new piece of studio gear that I think is going to be a very valuable addition to my studio and a big help in my workflow. As you can see beside me, I have a new amp switcher from the guys at KHE, and I reached out to Marcus and I said, I've got this problem in my studio. I love doing these A/B comparisons of different amps and things like that, but it's a huge pain to have to go and recable everything, and then also post recording, I have to go in and manually chop and edit up my video and audio tracks to get those direct A/B comparisons for you guys. And I was like, I really would like to get one of these switchers because I think it's one of those things that's just long overdue. So Marcus agreed, this is something you need, and I'll give you a discount in exchange for some content on your channel. And I said, say no more, let's do this. So I've got this thing hooked up to the JCM800 and the Splawn Nitro. Now, the 800 has way less gain than the Nitro, so to give this amp a fighting chance, I've also got the Hot Mod version 2 from David at Legendary Tones. I've got that installed in there, and I have both the bass and the gain switch engaged. The Nitro is on overdrive channel 1. Now, the way that I have these hooked up is the Nitro is amp 2, and the 800 is amp 1. And cabinet 2 here is going to the aux box. Cabinet 1 is going to the Splawn cabinet, but for this video, we're going to be using the aux box because I've got people in the house, and as you can imagine, these two amps are just absolutely bananas loud. So we're gonna be civilized here and just go ahead and use the aux box. I've got some great sounds dialed up with that, and we'll go ahead and play a little bit more. Now for the 800 settings, I started off and I've got the settings that Yuge used in his 800 metal video with the SD1 boost, I believe. And it's, you know, his bad boy amp. If you're familiar with his channel, you know what the bad boy is. It's the 800 with basically twice as much gain as any other JCM800 on the planet. But anyways, I've got his settings dialed in here, and I'll go ahead and change those here in a minute, but I wanted to let you guys hear what it sounded like with those settings because I think he got a great sound from that video. And I will go ahead and make some changes here and turn off the bass boost because I think that the amp sounds a little bit cleaner and better with the bass boost off, but with the gain switch engaged. And I've got this, the iPhone here, filming the controls because they're basically impossible for the camera to see unless it's like right up on the faceplate. And I will also be tweaking a little bit on the Nitro, but not much. Now the boost I used in the intro, it was my old Eden Analog Austin Overdrive. I have not used this pedal in years, and it's kind of crusty sounding if you mess with the knobs, but if everything is kind of left alone, it works pretty good. But it's basically just like a really hopped up tube screamer circuit. So I've got that boosting these two just for more gain. And I mean, these two devices have been like peanut butter and jelly together for like since I've owned the Nitro. And this does wonders for the Nitro in terms of pulling back the low end a little bit and kind of taming it without needing to use an EQ in the loop. And it can kind of sweeten up the mid-range just in the right way that I think really complements the voice of the Nitro. So I'll be using that, but I turned it off now so we can just hear the amps, and we'll go ahead and get started here. Got the Charvel with the Sir Doug Aldrich and the Saturday Night Special. All right, now I've got the bass boost disabled on the hot mod back behind the amp, but the gain boost is still engaged. nasty sound right there. I love that. All right, let's go over to the Nitro. Immediately you can hear there is an absolutely enormous low end shift with this amp. It has so much, and as you can see, the bass control on the 800 is all the way up, and on the Nitro it's back at 9 o'clock, and this amp, it just has so much low end, and it's a clean percussive low end too, which is why it works so well on stage. I will leave the low end there, but try to mess around with the mid-range. And also, as you can see, the presence and the treble are all the way up. This is a much darker sounding amp than the 800. The 800's top end is absolutely crazy. And to compensate and try to get these two sort of balanced out a little bit, I've got the treble and the presence on the Nitro all the way up, just to kind of not make them sound like just radically different. So, but this is also pretty much how I run it live. And if I need to adjust the top end on stage, I will kind of make those little tweaks here and there, or change it a little bit in the PA mixer. So that's kind of how I like to run this amp. Anyways, also the gain is a little bit higher than how I typically use it on stage, but just again, for high gain comparison's sake, I've bumped it up a little bit past halfway there. There's still some mid-range there. You can't scoop this amp the way that you can this one. Like this one, you can get it absolutely just like crazy scoop, but on the Nitro, there's still like a big kind of pronounced strong mid-range just always there. Let's kick the boost on. Did you hear what it did to the low end there? Let me turn it off and then back on and just listen to the low end here. It's just really, really abusive and just kind of over the top in my opinion. And it's what makes it a little bit difficult to use this amp on stage without something to kind of contain that low end. But this boost pedal, man, it just does such a great job of shaving off just enough without letting it lose its power and that percussiveness, but just takes a little bit of that extra rumble that kind of butts heads with the bass player. It kind of cuts just enough of that out, like kind of just the right amount. Unfortunately, the 800 does not need any low end taken out of it, so it's giving the 800 a nice kind of like bump in the mid range and a lot more gain, but it is kind of pulling a little bit of that low end out. And adding the bass boost on the hot mod doesn't increase the low end resonance enough to make it worth it for the way that this is all set up, in my opinion. I like the bass boost always off with this amp, and just sort of dealing with the way that the low end, how it sounds. well, that is going to wrap up this comparison video between the Splawn Nitro and the JCM800 with the legendary Tones Hot Mod version 2 installed. Both of these amps sound absolutely huge, even through the aux box, and I think that they each have very, very compelling strengths that make each of them extremely good for anything and everything sort of high gain. It just sort of depends on what sort of flavor of the type of sound that these produce, like what type of flavor do you want. And also, a big thanks again to Marcus for helping make this piece of gear happen here in my studio. And one thing I wasn't really expecting was when you switch immediately from one amp to another, there's something weird that has happened in my brain, and I don't know if other people out there who might have switchers like this, I don't know if this is the same way with you guys or not, but for me, if I play one of these amps for 20 seconds or 30 seconds, my ears start to accumulate to that sound and it becomes quote unquote normal. And then when I switch over to literally anything else, it is just a huge radical shift in the sound, and immediately my ears are like, oh, that doesn't sound right, or I don't like that. I liked what my ears had adjusted to and kind of gotten normalized to. And if I stick with that second amp that I switched to for, you know, another 20 seconds or so, my ears have adjusted to it and it becomes normal sounding. And then if I switch back to the first amp, all of a sudden it's just, again, it's just a big shift. And I'm like, oh, the big change happened, and my ears are just thrown like kind of out of their comfort zone and they have to adjust to it again. And you might be experiencing the exact same thing with the video switching immediately back and forth, but it's just this weird phenomenon that I kind of wasn't prepared for, and I don't know if that's normal or not, but that's what I've been experiencing no matter which amp I have tried with this switcher. I've tried several different amps, and every single time when I switch from one to the other after playing the first one for more than 20 or so seconds, after I make that switch, I'm like immediately like repulsed by the sound, and I have to like reacclimate to it. So it's a very bizarre phenomenon, and I don't want you guys to get the impression that when we're doing these switching back and forth that one is better than the other. They're very different sounds, and without two amps put together that sound really, really, really similar, it's a very weird thing to have to cope with switching back and forth. And that's kind of why I wanted to play a little bit more instead of doing like these rapid back-to-back switches, because I feel like giving you a little bit of time to get your ears accustomed to hearing one of these amps before making that big switch, it kind of normalizes the sound a little bit to make it sound a little bit more, how do I put this? It's like if you have listened to it for enough, you start to get adjusted to it and it starts to sound right. And then after that big switch, I need to play a little bit more for it to sort of settle back into that new sound for your ears to kind of adjust to that. So again, I'm kind of getting like a little long-winded with this, but I wanted to sort of put that out there just in case it's something that you guys have either experienced in real life with one of these switchers, or if you've just now experienced that with this video. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, and if you're feeling the same way, then I guess welcome to the club. It's brains and ears are weird, I don't know. Okay, well, I've got several other comparison videos that I'm working on at the moment, and I will have those hopefully edited and uploaded here within this week and maybe next week. I don't know, we'll see. But anyways, that is going to wrap up this comparison between these two absolute units here. So yeah, I will have links to all of the things that I used in this video, like the amp switcher, the hot mod that's back in the 800. Both of the amps, I'll have links to check out those as well, and the guitar, all that good stuff. So yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.